Welcome to Pathways to Aviation. This is day 5, the last day of our 4th annual Aviation Career Week. It's our second in a virtual format, and it has been amazing. We have students, job seekers, we have schools live streaming it to their students. We have mentors. On this call, we have board members. We bring them all in a room to meet industry leaders to learn and then receive a little career advice. Find out maybe where some jobs are located, what the hiring spectrum is like right now. And if you play the cards right, make connections with these leaders to develop professional relationships. Pathways to Aviation is a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and our whole mission is to inform, inspire, and engage aviation and aerospace's next generation. And we do that a number of ways, but one of the ways we do that is virtually through workshops on a weekly basis. And then once or twice a year, we have a week-long celebration or symposium of careers for the industry. We want to bring industry leaders to the candidates to forge relationships, because when that happens, greatness happens. You know, we talk about the roles of mentors and connectors and references. These are all integral to you finding the jobs that you want, not just any job, the job that you actually want, your career dream. So this morning, we're hosting a panel discussion with 3 amazing leaders. I've had this workshop circled on my calendar for quite some time. I liken it to like a heavyweight fight because they are all amazing in their respective ways and at their respective employers. So before I hand it over, I want to say thank you for joining us. This has been amazing. We changed things up this year with the Aviation Career Week, and instead of Eric and myself leading as moderators of these workshops, we've turned to our candidates. These candidates have gone through a 3-step process to become career ready. Now, Andrew, whom I'm about to introduce, is just a rising sophomore at Purdue University, but he has a career aspiration that finds himself or could find himself in aviation or airport operations. So he is a driving force amongst our candidates right now in our system, but he's going to lead this conversation. And Andrew, I'm going to turn it over to you, and whatever you want to do, whatever questions you want to ask, it's all you, buddy. So it's all yours.
All right, Pete, thanks for that wonderful introduction. So hi, everyone. My name is Andrew Wynn, and I'm studying aviation management at Purdue University. As Pete said, I just finished my freshman year. And then just a little about me, I've been in love with planes and flying since I was a kid, but now kind of as I've gotten a little older, I'm looking for ways to work in aviation operations to improve the ability for people to connect across the world. That kind of hits home with me just because I have a lot of family that's been across the country, and I've basically been flying since I was a kid just because I have to see them. So I'm currently looking for opportunities that can give me better perspectives on working in aviation so I can narrow down where I want to put my passions, if it's airport, an airline, anywhere, cargo even maybe. So with Pathways to Aviation specifically, I'm building relationships with people that share a love of aviation that I have. And then I'm also learning about how to further my career both during and after university. So thanks to Pathways for this amazing opportunity to talk to these leaders in aviation operations today. I'm going to introduce our 3 leaders today. So I have Peter Blandino from American Airlines, Darren Griffin from the Reno Tahoe International Airport, and Lily Rentz from Everglades International Airport. So can I start with Peter Blandino, if you'd like to introduce yourself and tell us a little about you.
Yes, thank you. Good morning, Andrew. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure for me to be here. I am Peter Blandino, and I am the chief pilot for American Airlines in Los Angeles. Los Angeles is the 3rd largest base of the largest airline in the world, so it's a real honor and responsibility to lead the men and women that work in Los Angeles. I'm also an active pilot. I'm a 787 captain for American Airlines. And I started my career many years ago, like Andres, was always interested in flying, always interested in aviation. My uncle was a captain at Eastern Airlines, and I always loved listening to his stories, and he instilled in me an interest in flying from an early age. I took the general aviation route. I got all my ratings while working at other jobs. and just a little bit at a time became qualified as a pilot and ended up getting a couple of crummy jobs in South Florida, hauling newspapers in the middle of the night out of Opelika Airport, and then hauling some freight to the Bahamas out of Corrosion Corner in Miami International. I ended up getting hired in the Caribbean at a little outfit called Executive Airlines in 1989. And 6 months later, they got bought by American Eagle. And I ended up as an American Eagle pilot for the next 6 years. I ended up hired at America West Airlines. We merged with US Airways, and a few years later, we merged with American Airlines, and now we're American Airlines. But I've gotten to see a lot of different aspects of the industry. A big chunk of my career as a pilot, I spent working as a union representative. I wore a lot of different hats, representing pilots along the way, and eventually found a path towards management and continued to represent pilots and take care of pilots, but from a different side of the table. And I've been doing that since 2009. So I'm one of the more longer tenured chief pilots at American Airlines. But like I said, I've gotten to see a lot of different aspects, including hiring. I was involved in pilot recruitment at US Airways prior to the merger with American. And in fact, US Airways, after a long dormant period of no hiring whatsoever, stood up their hiring department in 2011. And I was involved in that from the very beginning. And it was some of the most rewarding work I ever did. And after this very strange and really devastating year for the industry that we've all lived through, where the industry has kind of shrunk a little bit and refocused into what can be a sustainable business model for the future, we have just announced at the end of April that we are prepared to begin hiring again at American Airlines. And our plan is to hire approximately 300 pilots this year, beginning in the fall, and with a plan to hire as many as 600 or maybe a little bit more next year. And that will continue into the future. And for those of you that are thinking about a career in aviation from the pointy end of the airplane, pilot hiring is something it's a big deal at all the carriers. American in general has a slightly older demographic than the other main carriers. And so we are going to, well, it's not that we expect, we know that we are going to retire essentially half of our workforce in the next 10 years. It's actually a little bit less than 10 years, but half of our pilots, and we currently have about 12,000 pilots, half those pilots will be gone in 10 years. So we're going to be actively recruiting and hiring pilots probably for the remainder of my career and well beyond. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Peter. That was really amazing to hear about kind of all of your history and then everything that's going on now. Next, I've moved on to Darren from Reno Tahoe.
Great, thank you, Andrew, and good morning, everybody. It's great to see you all and to be with you this morning. So, Andrew, the question was, tell me about you, basically, a little bit about myself. Correct?
Yes, that is the question.
Okay. So I am currently the president and CEO of the Reno Tahoe Airport Authority, and the airport authority here owns the Reno Tahoe International Airport and Reno Stead Airport. I've been in this role since August of last year, so 9-ish months now. How I got here started a long time ago when I was probably a little bit younger than you are. When I was 17, a junior in high school, had no idea what I was going to do with my life. But when you're a junior in high school, you start getting a lot of college. Even back in the 80s, when I was in high school, you get those college advertisements, right? They're soliciting, promoting their schools. And I got one from Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University talking about careers in airport management, airport operations. And I pretty much decided right then that's what I wanted to do. And people have scratched their head at that story my whole career because I've done it ever since then. I couldn't afford to go to college, so I went in the military, did some active duty time, got the GI Bill to help me come out and then pay my way through school, which I did. And then I just grabbed the first job I could get in an airport as soon as I got my degree, which was in Yuma, Arizona, as an airport operations officer, entry-level job, $6 an hour. I still don't know how I fed myself on that, but when you're a single guy living by yourself, you can get by on very little, but I was in the business. And that's all that really mattered to me. And I stayed there and worked my way up into management. I started at the ground floor, doing all the little jobs that have to be done to make a civilian airport of any size really run well and serve its customers and its tenants and its airlines and all the people that rely on us. From there, I went to general aviation route up to the state of Oregon and managed 30 general aviation airports, which was amazing. I grew up in Oregon and I saw way more of it managing airports across the state that were small, sometimes just grass strips, but have to be managed in their own way, made sure they're as safe as possible and welcoming and providing facilities to pilots of all types, skills, ratings, you name it. And it was an amazing time for me. And then on to Portland, Oregon, where I worked for 16 years, leading the operations at the 3 airports in the Portland metropolitan area. And then here, which is an amazing place to work. It was obviously an amazing time to step into my first CEO role in the middle of the pandemic. It has been a roller coaster ride for everybody in aviation, but it is incredibly fulfilling to step into a leadership role and help bring us back in whatever little way that I can. And just to report on how things are going here this week, we are up to about 90% of our 2019 passenger levels right now. And that is astonishing from where we were 90 days ago. America wants to fly again. They want to get back into airplanes and go places, and that's great to see. And of course, yesterday's announcement around masks will only help add fuel to that fire. And we've been blessed with a solid general aviation business through this whole thing. And I think that shined a different light on the importance of general aviation. And I am devoted to both. I'm not a pilot. I love the airport. And it's weird because most people can't figure that out. And sometimes I can't either, but I've always been passionate about connecting people through aviation, whether it's on a commercial airliner, on a corporate private jet, or somebody out on a fly-in on a Saturday morning between general aviation airports. I love it all. And I've been committed to it my whole professional career, which is, I think I'm on year 27 now. So again, really appreciate the opportunity this morning. Look forward to talking more. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you. And that was great to hear a little bit about your history and then also the progress that we've, I guess, in returning to normal operations. And then to introduce our last guest today, her name is Lily Rentz, and she's from the Everglades International Airport.
Good afternoon. Well, it's actually good afternoon over here in South Central Florida. But I'm super excited to be partaking in this event with you all and sharing some of my own expertise and advice and this exciting project that I'm working on. As Andrew mentioned, my name is Lily Rentz. I am the Airport Director Manager for Everglades International Airport. It is a very unique project. Before I get into it, a little background on myself. I've primarily went to school in my earlier years, without giving my age away, in business and management with a concentration in economics. While I was in school, that did take a little turn. I thought I wanted to get into the medical field and make a difference and, making an impact and help save lives, change lives. And eventually I found out very soon that that wasn't the case. So I took a risky move, finished my degree, came back to my hometown and decided that I wanted to give back to the community. On that note, I started working with our Economic Development Council, got very invested, very integrated with the community itself, because I do live in a very rural area where we are economically suppressed and currently, not very proud of this, but the #2 and the highest unemployment rate in the state of Florida today. So with that said, as I ventured on my economic development career path, there has always been, and this probably goes back to what Darren mentioned, I wasn't a pilot at the time, I am now, but I realized that aviation was something I was very passionate about. And I think a lot of that had to do because my father and my brothers were also pilots. My father primarily fought in World War II. So he kind of ingrained that in us a bit. And I also just love the connectivity that, air had with people and basically keeping them connected. And like you said, Andrew, when you have family across, the US or around the world, it's just a great way to stay connected with all those individuals. So my passion grew there, but how I got involved in this project and in this airport development was I was approached by the founder. It's a very unique story, very similar to his. But when he was looking for someone to kind of come in and help assist and become the assistant airport manager at that time, my name came up on everybody's list. So he approached me. I was very happy where I was. I felt like I was making a huge impact in the community. I knew what the project was about. And then soon realized once I accepted the position that it was going to be a huge undertaking and a lot bigger than we anticipated. So I've been with Airglaze International to date for about 6 years. And we are working on a one-of-a-kind privatization project in the US. I work for the private developer. And this project is basically us taking a general aviation airport today, purchasing it from Henry County, and developing it to be the first cargo commercial airport, not only in the US, but in the world. Strictly focused on air freight and perishable goods. Today, I do oversee operations on the airport, and I also oversee all of our finance budget, pretty much everything to keep the airport operating and going in a safe manner, which is always our priority. But that's pretty much where I am today with the project. And hopefully when we get to dive in, we'll talk about some of the opportunities because we are pretty much at the finish line of this project and going to get ready to develop it and hopefully start recruiting individuals to come and work at the airport. We are looking about hiring on, I would say on the short end, about 1,400 employees. And those positions range anywhere from pilots to logistics and trade, which is a huge part of this project and has become a huge learning curve for all of us who have been involved in this project heavily. And pretty much it was something that took us several years to learn about. And we realized that there wasn't a one-size-fits-all for everybody, but we're super excited about bringing logistics and trade to Henry County, which is today predominantly known for agribusiness. So bringing the aviation industry to South Central Florida, and then also improving today's model to add shelf life to perishable goods has become very exciting for us. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for that introduction. I can't even begin to imagine how complex setting up a whole airport is. I'll probably leave it at that for now.
From the ground up, that's all I can say. We're developing from the ground up.
All right, so thank you guys for those introductions. So I think unless anything else needs, I'm going to jump into the questions. So the first question that I have for you guys is, what characteristics do you, your organization, and the industry seek in new hires? So whether that's pilots, management, or I guess any other fulfillment that you guys need. I guess hiring would be, I guess all of you probably have hiring roles, but I guess Peter would probably be the main one as he's a
I'll
chief
jump
pilot.
in. I'll give it a shot, Andrew. So we are recruiting mostly from the military and from civilian as well. We have flow agreements with our regional partners. So we end up hiring in any new hire class. We have a set of military pilots that we've brought in. We've got flow-through pilots that have come from our regional carriers. And then we have another smattering of pilots that are just applying off the streets and are not affiliated in any way necessarily with either the military or our regional partners. And in all cases, regardless of where the pilots are coming from, we're looking for leadership attributes that demonstrate the ability to work together as a team. We don't embrace the paradigm that existed when I was a kid growing up, where it was very hierarchical in the airlines. The captain ruled the ship, and the other two pilots on the flight deck just kind of stayed quiet and did whatever the captain told them to do. That paradigm hasn't existed for a long time, and we've expanded it beyond the cockpit to to make sure that our pilots recognize that in order to be successful as an enterprise, we all have to work together, and to get a flight out and off the gate on time and safely and reliably and deliver a product for our customers involves an entire team of people at the airport, whether there are business partners that are fueling the aircraft, or there are clerks that are down on the ramp loading cargo onto the airplane, or there are customer service agents that are resolving customer issues in a timely way and allowing people to sit together and get on board the airplane in time and leave on time, or our maintenance technicians. It's all part of one big team. And those are the kinds of individuals we're looking for. We don't want single pilots anymore. We want individuals who have skills at collaborating, at working together, at building a team. In fact, when we upgrade a captain, they go through individualized training. We have captain leadership courses at American Airlines where we emphasize how important it is to engage all parts of your team, and how everybody's got a story to tell, everybody's got a message, and everybody's got important contributions to the successful outcome of every flight. And that's the kind of leaders that we're looking for at American.
Right. Yeah, that's very in-depth. So thank you for that. It's kind of looking like you're looking for very well-rounded people that are still that can do a lot of things, but they need to work together because they have to.
The technical skills seem to be, everybody that we're interviewing has got the technical skills to fly an airplane. In order to make it into the interview, you have to be able to fly. So we worry less about that, and we emphasize that less during the interview process. And we're really looking for great people, just great team members. When I was doing interviews years ago at US Airways, I would sit across the desk from somebody who was having a face-to-face panel interview, and I'd think, if I was on a 4-day trip with this individual, would it be fun? Would we have a good time, or would it just be a chore to get through those 4 days? So we're still looking for that.
Yeah, I bet. Darren or Lily, did you have a response to that question?
Sure, Andrew, I'll jump in on that, and I'll echo a lot of what Peter said from really the airport perspective. Airports are their own cities, if you will. We have to be self-sustaining enterprise operating areas. We have our own airport police, airport fire, the maintenance teams, the operations teams out running the airfields, or the parking lots, the parking garages, all those elements. And then of course the terminal is its own really unique connected environment. And I would say in the last 5 to 10 years of my career, there's been a huge pivot away from the black and white qualifications, minimum qualifications that you're looking for to even talk to somebody, and more it's just more and more becoming about people. It's all about people, your ability to work well with others, your ability to communicate well with others, to listen. Everything we do is as a team. I can't honestly think of one job where you're just working alone all the time, especially in an airport environment, that to keep the doors open and to keep it running smoothly, safely, securely. Every aspect of it requires teamwork and open communication, willingness to compromise. And sitting where I sit now, it's the thing I value most. And I was on a panel earlier this week. We were hiring basically a corporate communication director, high-level position, and something that's incredibly important that we think about a lot more now, which is how we talk, right, as an airport. Where are our messages? How are we on social media? Everybody is listening to every word and reacting immediately to everything we do, and it's everywhere, right, in our lives, and airports also have to adapt to that. A skill set 10 years ago I wouldn't have been that familiar with, and it wasn't so much about, well, what's your technical skills? Are you really good at PowerPoint or Twitter? It's more about the communication style. Do you feel connected? Talk about the teams you've led, teams you've built from the ground up, how you empowered people, and like Peter said, how you worked, as a team, not autocratically, but open and inclusive, but also making decisions. Because that is something that's really important, is that we can be super inclusive and debate things to death, but we got to make decisions oftentimes quickly. But there's a balance there that can be achieved. And I would encourage all students to be thinking about this kind of soft side that, yeah, you got to get the book learning in or the technical skills. How are you with the other students? Are the classes challenging you to build strong teams and bring products that you all have participated in? So I just can't overemphasize how important that is when we're out looking at talent right now, trying to compete for talent. And as an employer, we're trying to be an attractive employer as well, and make sure in the interview process it's clear, what are we offering you? It's a two-way street here, and we talked about that this week. Candidates were challenging me. What's your vision? Why should I come to work for you? Beautiful. You should challenge the CEO when you're in an interview process, right? There's a right way to do that, but if I don't have an answer, then I've got a problem. So I'll stop there, but it's a really great question, and thanks for asking it.
Yeah, that's kind of recapping what you said. I feel like I get that kind of knocked into me now too, is like, you need to know like the requirements and like you need to have those skills, but they're kind of useless to you in industry if you can't use them with other people's skills, because then you're just sitting there and you can't do anything with it, because you can't do anything just by yourself.
Right, you nailed it.
Lily, did you have something to add to this?
Yeah, just to piggyback on what Darren and Peter mentioned, I mean, airports are integrated systems and communication is always essential and key. As we work on developing this project, right now we're trying to identify the need and demand for the positions that we have on airport. We're also very aware of the indirect jobs that this project is going to cause in the area. And I know it isn't always black and white. You know, I know the first thing that a lot of students think when they think of airports is pilot positions or flight, attendant. And it's way more than that. I mean, when you are involved in the aircraft, there's a lot more people that are involved in maintaining that aircraft. So you have your aviation mechanics, your avionic technicians, and in our case, working on a cargo project that's strictly focused on airframe instead of passenger, we're looking at the logistics side. So you have a lot of operators that we're going to need on the airport. So forklift operators, HVAC technicians to maintain the cooling systems. And then you also have the maintenance, repair, overhaul portion as well. So I know that we're seeing a huge demand as well, despite pilots in this conversation, but also on the mechanic side for airframe and power plant mechanics, and also those avionic technicians. So one of our plans is to try to help develop an aviation academy within the South Florida area to help feed that pipeline of those positions that we're going to need. But definitely it's something that we're trying to work on, trying to fill those positions as we move forward. I know a lot of people ask, where are the people going to come from? Where's the workforce? So I understand that there's a lot of other factors that are going on, and particularly to the shortage in demands. But I think one of the important things is I have these conversations with universities, with other workforce development boards, is that I don't think a lot of schools are really vocalizing enough the importance of the aviation industry and the type of careers that are offered in this segment of the business. I know a lot of times when kids are first, graduating, or young people, may I say, instead of kids. I know teenagers don't like to be referred as kids, but young individuals or professionals, as they're graduating high school and getting ready to make those decisions and go to college, a lot of times they're so focused on more of the white collar jobs, your doctors, your engineering, positions or type fields. And they really don't take a look at aviation. And as Darren mentioned, it's like its own little city. And you have all these different positions that are created as a result of developing an airport. So communication is key, I will say that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's something that I kind of feel a lot, is like the just vastness of the industry itself. Because 2 months after I accepted my admission, like I offered to Purdue, I was accepted as a professional flight technology student. So I was going in to be like a career pilot. And then I just kind of, I don't know, I just thought about it and I was like, wait, someone has to do all this stuff so the pilot can fly the plane. And I'm just like a numbers person. So I was like, well, why don't I just kind of give this a try? So I moved to aviation management, just because I think there might be more opportunities and be something that I actually like want to do day to day. Because like I love flying. I'll try to go flying as much as I can, but I don't know if that's something I want to do every day as my job. So that's kind of something to think about, kind of what you said, that there's just so many more jobs other than just flying or being a flight attendant or anything like that.
There most definitely is.
All right, moving on to the second question, which is kind of also all three of you can probably answer this. What's the typical hiring process like, either from application to hiring, or anything that's important to you guys in that process that you like to share?
So I'll jump in. We have a pretty straightforward hiring process. We will hire either directly to American Airlines from the street, or we will hire through our regional partners. We actually have flow agreements with all our regional partners that allow pilots that get hired at one of the regionals to flow directly to American Airlines. And that accounts for about 35% of every class at American Airlines. So it's a significant flow. In the year or two before the pandemic began, we set up our own AA flight academy, cadet academy. And we used that as a pipeline for students that had no background whatsoever in aviation. You didn't have to have a single hour logged, and you could get into the AA Academy if you were selected. It was a fairly rigorous selection process, but we would take you all the way through from your very first flight hour to your instrument instructor rating. And then at the end of that process, we'd offer you a job with the flight academy as a flight instructor and allow you to build hours. And then any graduate of the academy had a guaranteed interview with one of the regional carriers. So it was a pretty cool program. It kind of got derailed a little bit with the pandemic because we stopped taking students when the pandemic struck. But we are revamping the academy now, and students that are interested, I would encourage you to take a look at it. We offer financial aid as well, and it's a pretty structured program. So you go from zero to flight instructing in about 18 months. That would be a nominal time frame if you weren't aggressive about it. But what we do encourage our students is to, it's challenging to do if you're working a full-time job doing something else. But if you were to focus on your flight academy work as your principal endeavor, you can make your ratings done in significantly less time than 18 months. And at that time, you begin to build time as a flight instructor, or you don't have to get a job as a flight instructor. Some of our academy graduates have gone on to do jobs flying cargo, kind of like I did in my early days, flying newspapers around, or doing parachute jumping, doing where you're flying the airplane for the jumpers, and building time that way. That's a kind of a grueling way to build time very quickly. And then once you have the 1,500 hours, you've got the guaranteed interview with one of the regional carriers. And to my knowledge, every candidate that has gone through that process has gotten hired at the regional. And then as a regional pilot, you progress through the ranks, you eventually become a captain in a fairly short time. Experience flying very sophisticated modern jets. In many ways, they're more sophisticated than the jets that we fly here in American. The regional aircraft are incredibly advanced and really neat. And they will then get a flow through to mainline American, and eventually, probably within about 5 years from starting, if they did nothing else, they would be eligible to flow to mainline American and get a job as American Airlines first officer. And the interview process for the academy, I'll end with this, the interview process for the academy is very similar to the interview process at American Airlines. So it's a three-stage interview. It starts with an online application and skills test. It's nothing you can study for, it's just basic skills. If you progress beyond that and we want to take a look at you, there is a video interview. And that's really just a 5 or 6 question video interview where we want to just kind of get to know you a little bit better and just verify that you're someone we want to take a hard look at. And then the final phase is an in-person panel interview at American Airlines. And it's the same, whether you're going to mainline, maybe a little bit more rigorous if you're coming off the street, but it's essentially the same process to get into the AA Academy.
Yeah, it's really cool to hear about. It's very in-depth, and there's also kind of, I guess, different ways to go about getting hired, as you said, whether you can come from schools, off the street, or the military, which is very nice to hear. Darren or Lily, hiring process information.
And thank you for the question. It's a fascinating time to try and answer this question, because we're in a time where a lot of employees were basically sent home right at the beginning of the pandemic. Aviation contracted in a big way, both on the airline side and the airport side. And quite frankly, what our experience has been is that everybody who could retire did. If they were even reasonably close, they decided to retire. And some employees decided they didn't want to work in a public transportation facility during a pandemic. And that kind of created 2 different situations for us. One, it allowed us to really reduce cost by not backfilling some of those positions because we weren't busy. We could save money, which we really needed to do with the business being down so far. And now that the business is back, it's a struggle to get employees back. And some employees aren't coming back to work because they don't want to be back in the environment, or they found other jobs. And so, and when I talk about employees, there's of course those that would work directly for us at the Airport Authority and all the different jobs that this little city has, but also all of our partners. And so we're trying to be supportive of the TSA, our concessionaires, our airline partners trying to find ground handling staff or customer service frontline staff. One of the things we did in Portland was build a website that any employer could drop their jobs into, and there was 100 to 300 jobs constantly open pre-pandemic. And I don't know what it looks like today, but probably similar as they try and surge back to deal with business. It's what we're seeing here too. Our recruitment processes, hiring processes, are of course tailored a little bit to the job, and we always want to try and sift through looking for some of those qualifications, some of the experience that we're looking for, taking a look at as many candidates as we can, and then bringing them in to spend some time with the people they would work with, let them get a chance to see maybe the workspace or the operating environment that they're going to work in. Almost always we get to a panel interview, which is kind of the more structured and formal, but we try and balance out that structure and formality with informal so they can get a feel for somebody. And they can get a feel for what it would be like to work here. It's if all you do is a panel interview, it's very rigid, and it's hard to really get a feel for people, and then to get a feel for what's it like to work for somebody or to work next to somebody. So we try and balance those things out. We also promote from within as much as we can. We have a succession plan in place here. We try and push that all the way through the organization so that everybody that wants to see a career path for themselves, wherever they're sitting in an organization, can see one. Because as soon as you hire somebody, you start investing in them as a person and as a talent. And the biggest expense in many organizations is the loss of talent. That when you lose somebody, whatever amount of money or time or energy you spent in them just walked out the door. And you always wish people the best, but you want to hang on to as much talent as you can. And that was something that I really learned hard 10 years ago when I was just constantly fighting attrition in an organization that was growing. And so really worked hard to identify, from working on the roadway to managing traffic out there, all the way up to the director of operations. Is there a path? And we built one from scratch, and that had to be intentional and deliberate. And it was probably the biggest thing I accomplished, honestly, in my 16 years at the Port of Portland, was establishing that, because we had great talent at an entry level. We couldn't get it out of there, and they were either going other places or they would stay in that job and retire after 20 years. So what you want to do is pull talent through an organization. And so that is something also that when it comes to hiring, that people, we want them to know, once you're in with us, this is not the job for the rest of your life, unless that's what you want, right? And if that's what you want as an employee, more power to you. Let's empower you as much as we can. But if you're looking for the ladder, our job as an employer is to have that ladder, and you have to always be working on that. Organizations change constantly. So I hope I've answered that, but it's multifaceted when you're your own city, and it's no good if we can find our employees, but our concessionaires cannot. I said our business is back. We still have dark storefronts and restaurants here, and they're struggling to get people back to literally open the doors. And if you're a passenger and you can't get something to eat, that's frustrating, right? That degrades the experience at the airport, and we care about the experience, whether we directly control it all or not. We are working with other employers to try and help them get the talent they need. So it has got many layers to it, but hiring is more important today than it probably ever has been. And if you're a student coming out of college, wow, do you have a lot of great opportunities and choices. It's amazing. Thank you.
Mhm. Yeah, thanks for kind of focusing on like the kind of promotion after hiring, because hiring I feel like is not universal, but it's kind of similar across the board. But then kind of what happens right after that, and then after people have started, is kind of important for us to know as future, I guess, workers in the aviation industry.
Absolutely.
Lily?
Well, I will say that because we are a commercial airport that's starting from the ground up, as I mentioned earlier, we are working with regional partners to promote the airport that's coming, and then also start talking about recruitment and hiring. It is a huge undertaking as we try to figure out how to fill these positions, but I think given the area and significance that there is such a huge need for jobs, we've always received a lot of support from a lot of our local regional partners and business leaders about promoting job growth and opportunity in the area. A lot of times I will tell you that it's hard to retain local talent today because there aren't opportunities for a lot of these young people that are graduating high school. But as we do commence on moving forward with the project and anticipate being operational by the end of 2023, we're probably looking the next year and a half to start that recruitment process and start building awareness about the type of jobs that are coming, the qualifications that are going to be needed, and basically just start enlightening our students in the area and also in South Florida the type of jobs that will be available to them. So I will say that we have selected Apport as our airport operator. I'll be working with them regarding promoting local job growth. So a lot of the positions that would be available regarding airport operations and management, maintaining the airfield, et cetera, would go through Apports, and they are a fantastic company. Today they have over 600 employees. They operate and manage over 9 airports in the US today. And they're all about also promoting talent and local talent within whatever area they are as well, but also opportunities to grow and transfer. I know we've spent a lot of time right now in focusing on a new internal program. It's called Wings, Women Inspiring and Navigating Great Success. So they've been doing a lot of promotion there internally with their current women employees, the opportunities to allow them to grow within each organization and come up with a career path for any individual that's looking to expand their experience and their skills within that organization. You have to forgive me, I run out of breath because I am carrying a little one. So if I seem out of breath, I'm just trying to catch some air. But anyways, I'm good. But I think as far as our workforce needs and demands, really it's just going to take a lot of promotion and also a lot of maybe career days as well. I know, pre-COVID, we did a lot of career days at the airport. Just to build insight as early as like the elementary school as well, just to give them an idea of what it is to be on an airport and all the different functions that also come about in operating an airport. But we've also been working with local businesses as well to help expand those businesses, and then also the various entities that will be on airport as well. And because of the uniqueness of our project, it does allow us to entertain a lot of P3 opportunities, even for our local partners, like our local law enforcement, the fire department as well, for them to have a presence on airports. So we're looking at different areas and expanding, and as well as working with the federal agencies like TSA, US Customs, and of course the FAA. So a lot of opportunities in those areas as well.
Yeah, thanks for talking about kind of the hiring process that will begin for you guys shortly. I have a question that I'm going to pull from one of my own that kind of combines what the last question was that I had for everyone. So what opportunities should students like myself, whether they're at the end of their high school or college, look for as we look to gain more experience? Like for me personally, I'm trying to figure out, do I want to work at an airport? Do I want to work in like an airline office at a hub somewhere? Just kind of like, where should we look? Because especially for me, like I have a 3-month summer and a 1-month winter that doesn't give me a lot of time to work like a part-time job at the airport, because we have to get like all the, I guess, badges and certifications and stuff, and that a lot of employers don't want to spend that time when they could just hire someone that'll work year round. Just any kind of opportunities, or even just places that we can just go to like watch people do jobs to see if we'd like to do it. Be kind of, I guess, question for maybe Darren, because he works at an airport, or maybe Peter as he works with an airline.
Well, I'll jump in and give Darren a second to think about that one. But in my field, of course, it's more challenging because there's no access to a pilot job without actually doing some piloting of your own. You don't get access to the flight deck, so you can't actually see us do what we do. And I would say that flying, and I think you mentioned that you're a pilot, right? You do fly, Andrew, or no?
Not often. I don't have my PPL or anything. I just fly with friends and family when I can.
Okay. So with aviation, I think many of us that got into the business got into it because we just got bitten by the bug and love it so much. I know that happened to me as a young kid, and I just wanted to go to the airport all the time so I could look at airplanes. And as soon as I was old enough, I wanted to start learning how to fly. And that just kind of, even though I did some other things prior to becoming a pilot and doing that for a living, I did dabble in other career options. It was still an abiding interest for me, and it led me to continue to pursue it as a student pilot, and then as a commercially rated pilot, and then look for opportunities to work and never look back. I think it's a tremendously rewarding career. It's not just about going from point A to point B. It's a opportunity to work in an environment that's super dynamic and always changing, and you have to use your head to kind of figure out what the next best step is. And at the same time, you end up working with a lot of people and managing people, and it's just rewarding on so many levels. That to me, I think flying is one of the great professions. It's a noble profession. You really make a difference in people's lives, and even the company as a whole has embraced this notion of having a mission and a why for why we exist. And at American Airlines, it's to take care of people on life's journey, and we really look at it that way.
Yeah, it's really nice to hear kind of like not only you as an individual, but like kind of American Airlines as a whole has kind of like a goal as a company. Darren?
Sure, Andrew, thank you. And that's a great perspective from the airline side from Peter. And, you know, I'm comparing that to the things I've seen in my career. And on the airport side, you know, it depends a lot on the student, is what I would tell you. That what are you interested in? What sort of passion are you feeling? And going after it, finding an airport that you're interested in and make a connection with somebody that works there. Lots of airports don't have formal internship programs. they don't have the money for it, or they're not big enough and can't staff it. But it's something we're trying to develop here. At the bigger airport I came from, we had something like that, but we didn't always have it. 10 years ago, I had a young man before his senior year in high school knowing he wanted a career in aviation, and we didn't have an internship program and I didn't have any money. He was like, I'll work for free. I'll just volunteer this summer. Just let me do something. So we found some projects for him. We let him ride around with different jobs. He learned about the business. Lo and behold, that guy decided he wanted a career in airlines. And so I lost him to the airlines, but that's okay. He was still in the aviation industry, right? Which is good for all of us. He ended up as a strategic senior analyst at United, and now he's pursuing graduate program because he decided to do that during the pandemic. But it wouldn't have happened if we hadn't just let him work on some projects and get started, right? And during that time he spent with us, he talked to our airline partners as well. Good for him. Ultimately, he came back a year later and I did find a way to pay for him. And eventually we stood up a program, so it was motivated by him, what he was trying to do. And I would say that to any student, that wherever you're at, you're trying to figure out what to do for the summer, how to help prepare, look for those internship programs. And if they don't exist, create one for yourself. Find that connection at an airport or an airline, wherever you're trying to go, and just be aggressive. I know everybody's busy, right? Everybody's busy, but everybody's also thinking about the next generation and how do we get them ready to do the jobs that exist today and the jobs we don't even know about yet. And so that's probably the best advice I could give, is to just get out there and something will happen. You make something happen.
Yeah, I appreciate that advice. That's definitely something I'm trying to do now, is just find something, whether it's at like a municipal airport or even at like the international airport near my hometown. But yeah, just kind of get out there and do something, so I'm not just doing a menial job that has no relation to what I want to do in my future career. Lily?
Well, Darren, I'd like to add that is definitely great advice. And Peter, thank you for your insightful commentary as well. It's got my wheels turning, that's for sure. And as we, work on trying to identify how we're going to attract, the workforce for this project, one of the immediate things that we saw was just, as I mentioned earlier, is just trying to build awareness and hosting career days as well. I know with everything that's happened with COVID, it's kind of, got us trying to take a different approach as well, and hosting virtual tours, and just trying to give kids and young people a first look of what it is to work on an airport. But Darren, again, great point regarding, we're all very busy. We're all trying to work on things. And if students, do identify a way or have some outside of the box thinking on how to bring a program or something to the airport, I'm always open and I'm always all ears. The same with our local regional partners as well. I know Career Source in our area has been very insightful and also very supportive in trying to drive the initiative to build awareness and also speak more about the different types of jobs and opportunities that airports can create in an area. So that's pretty much what I got to say right now. But yeah, definitely got my wheels turning as well. And again, I'm always all ears and willing to hear any new insights or anything from anybody that has some great ideas.
Yeah, thanks for your perspective on that. I have a question from Pete that I like. So for all of you guys, in 1 minute, describe the importance of mentorship for high school and college students. So I guess I can start with Peter.
I think it's tremendously important because this is a complicated field and it can be an overwhelming field that you don't even know what you don't know. And so I think mentorship is really important in that it helps focus a student's interests and helps a student kind of figure out what is the best path in a very, very complex career in aviation. Because like the other panelists have mentioned, there's so many aspects to aviation. It's not just about flying. That happens to be what I do, but it's not just about that. There's so much that goes into running an airport and keeping airplanes airplanes flying and figuring out the best way to provide the best product for customers to keep attracting customers. All of these things are critically important, and it can be overwhelming for a student that's just getting started, that knows that aviation provides opportunities and they want to get involved, but they're not really sure where to start focusing their efforts. So I think it's really important.
Yeah, I really like that answer. That's kind of where I am. I'm like, I like planes and I like flying, but where does that match with my like for numbers and kind of reviewing things? So thank you for that. Darren?
Sure. Yeah, and I'll just quickly add that totally agree with all of that. And the other thing to think about on mentorship is that when you establish that relationship, whoever that mentor is just opened and unlocked an entire network for that student, right? That my world is a world of people all over the place. And when you make that connection and you're going to help somebody enter the industry or clarify where they might want to go, it's everybody I know is now a resource to whoever that person is. And that's true for all of us, right? That we all have surrounded by networks of people that we've developed and relationships we've built over many, many years. And that's one of the greatest values is, of course, whatever I know that is helpful, great. But who else can I introduce you to or set you up on a call or a Zoom meeting or a lunch or something that's going to help you get where you want to go?
Yeah, thank you for that. And then Lily?
Yeah, definitely connectivity is key. I do find myself now in my role constantly trying to connect individuals, whether it's not something on airport, even off airport as well. And I've been very fortunate and blessed to have great mentors along the way who have taken me under their wing and have showed me to continue to pay it forward. So definitely want to continue to build the awareness around aviation and also the opportunities, especially as we develop this project. So the sky's the limit.
Yeah, thank you for your response. And as we approach the top of the hour, I just want to thank all of you guys for coming on and letting me talk with you guys today about operations. And then I'm going to hand it off to Pete.
Wow, thank you, Andrew. I knew that when we built this session, you were the man for the job, and you killed it. I'm proud of you. I know you're only 18, but holy cow, you are a perfect representation of the students with whom we work. We guide to help them achieve their greatness, to help them pursue careers in aviation. So baseball terms, you hit a grand slam, buddy. So thank you very much. Purdue is proud. We might be a little bit more proud, but I know Purdue is proud to have you in their ranks. So great job.
Thank
Peter,
you.
Darren, Lily, holy cow. To me, this was the heavyweight match of the week for me, and it was amazing. And the biggest problem we have with these workshops is that they're only 1 hour in length. We want to be respectful of your time, but also the time of our candidates and students and schools on these workshops. But we could have talked all day because I have 10 more questions I want to ask you. There are questions coming in through chat and directly to me that need to be asked. We'll try to get to those, but we're subjected to a 1 hour limit or else Eric's going to fire me. So thank you very much. You've seen in the chat that there are some individuals who will be connected to you. I'll take care of that. And your answer to the mentorship question is perfect because that's what we do at Pathways to Aviation. And if you're on the call right now, we have a certification program where if you're interested in pursuing a career in aviation or aerospace, we will work with you on your soft skills. We'll help you craft a compelling resume. We'll work with you on your LinkedIn profile so it's appealing. And then we will ready you for that interview. And we have a whole system that we do that with. We're actually starting another series of workshops next Wednesday, where we'll take you through 18 weeks of workshops to help you guide your greatness. And next week, we're meeting with the airports director of Beaufort County, South Carolina. And the reason why he's on the call is I'm being forced to go on vacation to Hilton Head. So I figured I'm going to do the workshop from their airport with the airport's director, and he's amazing. So stay with Pathways, go through our certification process, meet more leaders like these individuals who can help open doors for your greatness. That's all I have to say. As I do with every workshop, I turn it over to our board chair, who's going to close us out. Eric?
Wow, Pete, what a great panel discussion, guys. Andrew, killed it, like Pete said, buddy. So proud of you, man. You know, there's folks that I've had as employees over the years that are in their 40s and 50s and couldn't have done a better job than you did moderating a panel like this. So well done there, my friend. Lily, fantastic. Excited about your project. My goodness, maybe we can help you with some candidates and job seekers. So we'll have to definitely connect, but just excited to see how this project comes to fruition. Also being the first opportunity to do something like this, having a cargo airport. So that's excited. And Darren, finally good to put a face to the name. And all the, you know, the stuff that's been talked about in the community. So good to finally meet you. And Peter, thanks for your insight. You know, with American Airlines, what's happening there. Yeah, it seems like things are ramping back up and we just need bodies and bottoms in the chairs. So I totally understand that. So thank you so much. And board members, thank you guys for coming out and supporting this panel discussion. I think you continue to see the excitement of what we're doing here at Pathways and the lives that we're changing, like Pete said. So with that, I'm gonna sign us off here. Pete, you ready? We're out of here in 3, 2, 1. Have a great week, guys. Talk to you soon.